I'm Olympic Fan 2 and this is part 2 of the how to make sodium nitrite synthesis video. In this second part we are going to take a look at the exact mass concentration of both sodium nitrite samples we've prepared in the previous video using a potassium permanganate solution. Let's get started. Before we can begin with the actual titration, we have to perform a blank test to ensure that our sulfuric acid and distilled water don't contain any reducing agents. I'm going to transfer some of the water and acid into an Erlenmeyer flask which will be used for titration. I already filled the burette with a 0.02 mole potassium permanganate solution and just placed the mixture onto the hot plate here. After the mixture has heated up, I'm going to add a drop of the KMnO4 solution. Alright, that looks pretty good. Not even a single drop seems to get discolorated. Now it's time to weigh out an appropriate mass of oxalic acid dihydrate, which is a common reagent for titer determination. I weigh out about 50 milligrams to have a use of about 7 to 8 milliliters of potassium permanganate for my 10 milliliter burette. Once everything is washed from the weighing boat and dissolved, it is time to add some diluted sulfuric acid and place the mixture on a hot plate. This is going to speed up the reactional speed during titration. As you can see, I'm already starting to titrate here. For the first few seconds, the solution seems to stay purple, until suddenly the reaction proceeds faster under discolorating, probably due to the catalytic effect of manganese to ions formed. And we are getting closer to the end point. which is indicated by the slower discoloration of the solution. If I would be very critical, I would have to rinse off the solution from the inside of the flask here. And as you can see, we are just about done. That was the last drop. Yep. Slightly over titrated, but still usable for our purpose. So after I did this 3 times in a row, the next thing to do is to weigh out an appropriate mass of the calcium sulfide and sodium nitrate reaction sample made in the previous video. In this case, I assumed 124.83 grams per 25 milliliters to be an appropriate mass, but as you see, I had to weigh out more on my second try. Now this time, when I'm doing the titration, I'm not going to titrate the sodium nitrite solution with the K-MnO4 solution from the burette, but the other way around. And this is simply because if I would have to acidify the sodium nitrite solution, then there probably would be quite a chance to get some nitrous oxide evolution. And to ensure that this procedure is absolutely correct in itself, I'm going to titrate it the other way around. So I've already placed the sodium nitrite solution from the graduated flask into the burette, and now I'm going to titrate a 5 milliliter sample of potassium permanganate acidified with sulfuric acid. Now I will also be performing this exact titration with my spaghetti sodium nitrate sample. However, I decided to only use 2 milliliters of permanganate in my later run. And this is because the mass concentration of nitrate in that sample will not be very much larger than in this one, as you will see next. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got here. I performed 3 titrations in a row, as you can see here. And the first one turned out to be 7.92 milliliters of permanganate. The second one 6.35 milliliters, and the third one 6.73 milliliters, compared to the theoretical one, which you can see on the left here, and the titer is also shown there as well. Now you can see that there's some kind of deviation between the results. However, for our purpose, these are still usable. So I ended up with an average of 1.029 at the end. Okay, so let's take a look at the results of the redox titration. Now I had some difficulties in the first place because the mass that I've weighed out from the nitrite samples was actually way too low. I've expected the yield to be somewhere in the 80% range maybe, but as it turned out, I had to use 3 times the amount of nitrite solution than I originally expected. And so here are the results. I performed 2 titrations using the sodium nitrite solution as the titrant, and here you can see that I only got 10.8% of sodium nitrite in the sample. That is the total mass of sodium nitrite present compared to the mass that I've weighed out at the beginning. And for the sodium nitrate and spaghetti sample, I only got 10.7%, almost the same percentage, interestingly, which is of course not nearly as much as I expected in the first place. Alright, that's it for today. Now you've seen that it's sometimes better to take a closer quantitative look at the things that you've synthesized, if you have the proper equipment to do that. Please subscribe, rate and comment.